Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maureen O'Connor from Quilters Heaven in Northbrook, Illinois, and I am the Opinionated Quilter. Today's episode, number 99, is Updating an Old Pattern, Part 2. But before we get to that, let's get to my opinion. There have been many YouTube videos recently on how to save money quilting. Hacks from the dollar store or buy fabric from the hardware store, all kinds of places to save money. And in my comments from last week, I got a few that said that they didn't want to spend the money on any more rulers. So I thought I'd kind of combine the two and show a spot to save some money that could free up your quilting dollar for rulers. Now, I first want to acknowledge, again, I've said this before, how you spend your quilting dollar is a deeply personal decision. I'm just showing you things that I think. Doesn't mean it applies to everybody. One woman who was so excited for the glow ruler because she had macular degeneration. Obviously, that's the person that I was talking about that would be worth it to purchase the glow ruler. I'm not a big fan of AccuQuilt, but AccuQuilt is a godsend to the people who can't cut anymore, whether it's because of a tremor or some other physical issue. So just because I don't care to use a certain product doesn't mean that it's not right for a whole host of people. So let me show you my money saving tip. I have here some things that have shown up in our donation boxes. People who have downsized and had to give away stuff, kids who come in and say, my mom was a quilter, husband who come in and says, my wife was a quilter, and they give us boxes of stuff. Here, I have 3 things that were in my stash. This is a 6 fat quarter pack from Cotton Pickers. They've been closed since before I opened the shop, which means this was purchased more than 16 years ago. I used to love the Keepsake Quilting catalog. Here are 2 Keepsake Quilting medleys that I have. When that Keepsake Quilting catalog came, I was like a kid with the Sears catalog. I went through that and I wanted everything in there. Well, here are purchases made prior to the store opening, and they're still in their original packaging, not used in more than 16 years. Can you see where I'm going with this? Beautiful piece of fabric. This is one you still might like. It's a Amy Butler. But I have lots of pieces of fabrics in my boxes that I say, what in the heck was I thinking? I'm sure there's many of you out there who would say that. How about this one that was donated? It's a kit, more than 8 yards of fabric in here. Kit and pattern, everything all together. 20 fat quarter bundle. In fact, lots of fat quarter bundles. And these are beautiful. These are Free Spirit fat quarter bundles. Another one. We got lots of jelly rolls. Think about this when you're at the counter and you just pick up a jelly roll and think it's pretty and decide you're going to purchase it. Are you going to give it away when you downsize? 2 really cute Christmas packs of Charm Pack and fat quarters, a Kate Fawcett 6-inch roll, I don't know what they call them, and of course the ever popular layer cakes. This is just one I'm showing you. We've gotten several in our donation boxes. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with buying something that you think you're going to use, but if you want to save a little money, maybe you want to buy the jelly roll when you're ready to start the project. I've learned that when I look at a fabric that I think is absolutely gorgeous, there's going to be nothing as beautiful as that ever again. And then 2 months later, another absolutely gorgeous fabric comes in. So while you want to buy it, if you're buying more faster than you can sew it up, maybe you want to hold back a little bit, and that might give you the extra cash to spend on the Deb Tucker rulers. These pieces of fabric have been in boxes and on shelves for years and years and years. These rulers I use every day. So, like I said, the decisions to how to spend your dollar is entirely up to you. But if you want to choose something that you would use every day over something that sits on a shelf, this might be a good option for you. I did mention that this is episode 99. Be sure to stay tuned next week for episode 100. I am going to have a giveaway. Let's get to today's episode. Continuing on with the updating the old pattern, these are 2 more blocks from the same pattern we did last week, Stars Around the Garden, 2005. But I think last week I didn't start at the beginning, so kind of want a do-over on the beginning from last week, and this obviously applies to these next 2 blocks as well. So when we're going to update a pattern, the first thing you want to do is identify the unit. What is the name of the unit of the block that you're going to do? And I've been doing this so long that I can just look at them and see them. But on Deb's website, she has a free download that shows all the units that her rulers and technique sheets make. And I'm going to have a link to this in the box below so that you can just go there, download it, print it out. She also has a lot of other free stuff there. There's free patterns. There's her Blockbuster series, all kinds of free things that you can download. And if you do lose your instructions, her instructions are there as well for the rulers. You can download them and print them out. So after you know what the unit is that you're going to make, the next thing you have to do is determine the size. And there's clues as to what the sizes are in the original written pattern. And sometimes you can just look at it and see exactly what it is. But we'll go through that on the next 2 blocks. Then, as far as cutting, I didn't show every single step of everything last week because all the instructions are in the rulers or technique sheets. But you just follow her charts, because in every ruler, it'll say this is the finished size unit, this is the cut size unit, which I would call not finished, unfinished, or raw edge to raw edge. And then it tells you exactly what size to cut the pieces to make that. So that's where in last week I was saying, here's what it is on the instructions, and I crossed that off and changed, say, for example, change the 4 1/4 to cut to 4 1/2, because that would be what Deb's instructions would say. But for whatever size you're making, for whatever unit you're making, if you just, after you know the unit, the size, and you get out the proper instructions for that unit, you just follow her cutting instructions. Let's get to the first block. This block is called Winding Ways. And here is the picture of it that I blew up from the pattern. And I tried, I don't know how well you can see the red lines, but this unit is called a shaded 4 patch. We know that's a flying geese, goose, whatever we want to call that. And then this in the center has a square and a square and a square, which is what Deb would call stacked squares. And you can find all 3 of these units in this download that I told you about. Now, what size are they? Well, we know they're 12-inch blocks. So it has to be this B6, because this is always double what this is. So this is 6 and 6 by 3 finished, and this is 3 inches square. So you need 1 stacked square unit here. You need 4 flying geese, and you need 4 of the shaded 4 patch. I'm not going to go over the flying geese. We've done that many times. If you have her wing clipper ruler, you've got all the instructions how to make it properly. The one that I find so interesting is the shaded 4 patch. I love the shaded 4 patch. There's also a shaded 9 patch, and they're great to add into your quilt designs. And how do we make them? It's so clever, but it's all in her technique sheet. There's the technique sheet for the shaded 4 patch. And what you do is you cut strips of fabric the sizes she tells you on the chart of the 2 colors here. And in my example I'm showing you, it's this light blue floral and white. So the white matches the white here. So the wider one is the strip that's here, and the narrower one is the strip that's here. And then you lay them together like this with opposite sides. White's on the bottom here, white's on top here, and vice versa with the floral. And then you cut them the width that she tells you to cut them. And then you put them on a rectangle, the size she tells you to cut for this piece. And then here's where the magic happens. You cut a little slit in the seam allowance so that you can press your seam away from the square. So now you can see, and I darkened this with a friction pen, so I hope you can see it, where the thread intersects. I just darkened where the thread is, here and here. And you take your ruler, line your 45-degree line up here, and then you mark 2 45-degree lines that go directly through this intersection of these 2 threads, both spots. And then you can cut them apart using a 1/4-inch seam allowance on each and trim it down, or you can just cut it center in half here, and one seam allowance, the seam allowances will be just a little larger than normal, but either works. Check it out. This is unbelievable, to me anyway. There it is. There's your unit, the shaded 4 patch. So super simple. You then have to square it up. You use your Tucker trimmer to square it up, but really ingenious how she came up with that. Now, this unit, the square in a square, which is the stacked square, you do need your squared ruler, but all you do is cut your center square. She's got the chart here. You cut your center square the size she tells you to cut it. You cut 2 squares the next size she tells you to cut it. Cut them in half so you have 4 triangles. You construct this exactly like you do the regular squared. So 2 sides press, and then you square up using the lines she tells you to use in the instructions. Same thing for these 4. 2 squares, cut in half diagonally. You've got 4 triangles, so 2 sides press, and you square up using your squared ruler. All the instructions are in the technique sheet. Very easy, comes together beautifully, points aren't cut off. You've got plenty of space for your seam allowances here. Lovely block, way easier than cutting all these little triangles and squares individually. Let's move on to the next one. This block is really interesting because in this block you have to make a choice as to how you're going to construct your block. It's called Friendship Chain, and it has a unit here that they piece all in one piece. If we're going to use Deb's techniques, you're either going to make a flying geese here, and then a square here, or you could opt to do a flying geese here, and then this would be a hourglass block. So I opted to do the first one I showed you, the flying geese and a square. And why did I choose that? Because I didn't want to take my floral fabric and cut it into two pieces and sew it back together. I wanted my floral fabric to stay in one piece. So I used this option. So what do we have here we have to make? We have to make 4 patches here. We have to make the flying geese that I said, except the flying goose is up here, flying geese. We have to make the square and a squares. And then we have 4 patches here. And then we have to add on extra pieces here to make this. So I know now what I have to make, but what's the size? Well, we know that this is 3-inch square. How do we know that? Because in the directions it tells us to cut a 3.5-inch square. So we know it's 3 to start with. As soon as we know this is 3, we know this is a 3-inch finished square and a square, and we know this is a 1.5 by 3 inches finished. So it would be 2 by 3.5 cut. Remember, this is always twice what this is. So how do we know what this is? Well, we knew this was 3. We know it's a 12-inch block. Remember how I always say, do your math without the seam allowance first and then add the seam allowance back in later. So 12 minus 3 is 9. 9 divided by 2, because there's 1 on either side, is 4.5. So these have to finish to 4.5, so they end up being 5. This has to be cut 2 to finish to 1.5, because to get to 4.5, 1.5, 1.5, 1.5 is 4.5. So now we know that our 4 patches have to be cut at 2. And remember last week when we had the 4 patches to do, I'm not going to cut individual squares. I'm going to make a little strip set and make the 4 patches. Then I'm even going to make a little strip set of these 2, which is cut 2 and cut 3.5, sew them together. You only need 4 of them, so you only need, little strips. You don't need full width of fabric. Now, if you were going to make a whole quilt of these, yes, you'd make full width of fabric strip sets. But in this case, you only need 4 of them. So the piece to add on to here, you're going to cut that 2 by 3.5 and add that individually to here. And then you're going to add your little strip set pieces, sew on to here. So again, you probably think I say this all the time, but it is very easy when you break it down into units. And just make your 4 flying geese. Oh, here's all the things you needed. 4 square squareds, 3-inch finished. 4 flying geese. Here, 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 and here. You need 4 patches, and you need 4 of the unit together of the this up here, the small square and the rectangle, and you need 4 of the individual pieces. easy enough. Sew them together. Some people sew together in columns, some people sew together in rows, whatever works for you. I made this unit together, sewed together, this unit, then each of these sewed three together, three together, and then sew together. And these one block things, they go really fast. It's different when you're trying to make, 16 or 25 of the same block, but when it's just one, it's really easy. If you have a block you're trying to figure out how to update it, make it with newer methods, and you can't figure it out, either put it in the comments or you can email me at quiltersheaveninc@gmail.com. Someone did several months ago send me a pattern, and I said I would look at it and try to figure it out. I haven't been able to find it. I know it came, but I can't, it's too far back, I can't find it. So if that was you, please send it again to me, and I promise I will take a look at it. The new methods to me just make life so much easier, not cutting off points. Things just meet properly. They come together nice and easy. And also, don't forget, watch next week for the giveaway, our celebration of our 100th episode. And that's today's episode. Please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, happy sewing.